All right, y'all. Welcome to Nashville and my channel, which is not like a regular channel. It's where we do artsy things that probably aren't going to go viral because everyone's like, what is art? I don't understand art. I'm going to break from the southern accent maybe eventually. Um, Welcome. I make movie review channels, but I am a producer, so I know all the work that goes into like clip licensing. I don't know if any YouTubers do that or if they're just like illegally getting clips and stuff. I don't know how their process is. Maybe they are doing all that hard work. Power to them. I am disabled and I have limited spoons. And I decided I would take vlogs from my life that reminded me of the shows that I was reviewing, and I would review the show kind of on a podcast way over here, and that's my format, and maybe one day it will change, but now it isn't. And if you like it and you want to help me, I don't know, have the ability to pull more clips and do things less vloggy and indie, consider donating, perhaps consider subscribing, consider following me on other social networks if that's your vibe. And without further ado, we're gonna go into Nashville. So full disclosure, I've never been in Nashville, Tennessee. Maybe I went to the airport once. I don't think so, though. I think my flight got canceled. I have an opportunity to go to Nashville for a business thing, but it is $12,000. So unless y'all gonna donate, unless all 2,000 of you are gonna give 2,000, I don't know. I don't know it's gonna work. You'd have to do 2,000 each, and I would probably be able to go. But we'll see. So welcome to Nashville. It's not really necessarily about the town, but it's about country music, which is in that town. I am a Southern girl myself, not from Tennessee, but Texas. Maybe you could have done it in the same thing, but I think Nashville has more of a vibe. I have yet to go, so listen though, there's 7 seasons, so I figured I could start my Nashville review, and eventually I will go to Nashville during my reviews of these 7 seasons of Nashville, and I'll tell you what I thought. But anyway, so we got Rayna Jaymes and her family. She's got 2 daughters, Daphne and Maddie, and Teddy is her husband. We're going to get into all those dynamics and how we feel about that in a second. Rayna also had this guitar player who she made a lot of music for and was very much in love. His name is Deacon. Then you've got Scarlett, who was Deacon's niece, and she is my favorite character, and they butcher her throughout this show, so enjoy her in season 1, because they take her away, and I hate it. I don't know what it's about. Maybe other people didn't like her because she's very manic pixie dream girl, but in a soft way, like a cottagecore way, and I love her. I'm obsessed, and I want everything about her. Anyway, so yeah. Her name is Claire Scarlett. She writes poetry. And she is dating at this time Avery, who honestly has a beautiful character arc, maybe the most beautiful character arc out of everybody out of the seasons. He is her songwriter kind of guy. He's worked at Bluebird. They've been dating forever, right? Okay. Rayna Jaymes' dad is this big political figure. Her mom died when she was young. She's got a sister named Tandy. Just breaking it all down. And then we'll go into other details, right? So they're kind of stressed about finances because Teddy's a politician, and if you don't know about politics, it's all money. It's all money, baby. It's all money. And Teddy hasn't been making enough money. So Rayna is the breadwinner, which I think is emasculating to Teddy to somewhat. But he's also not too worried about it because Rayna's got a big daddy, and they met each other when they were young, and they were kids, and they're just in this politician thing, and that's just kind of how Nashville is. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if Taylor Swift is from Nashville. I feel like she was, or her grandmother was involved in the Opry, but it's all big money, baby. It's all big money. So I hate that she says to her girls that it's bad manners to talk about money. They seem to be relatively well off, even though I know they're struggling, but because they obviously live a large lifestyle. And her albums haven't been doing too good as she gets older, and you know how people treat older women and just women in general, right? We all know how that goes. So anyway, you've got Haley Panettiere playing Juliette, which is very interesting. I think Haley also admitted at one point that she was having drug problem, like, that she was very similar to the character of Juliette, which I found very interesting. I think from the acting that I've seen, this is some of my favorite of hers, but I haven't watched a lot of Heroes, which is where she was known from. I think she pretty much went from Heroes to this. Rayna's girls love Juliette, right? I think she's, like, supposed to be kind of like a Taylor Swift, a Casey Musgraves sort of vibe, like a pop country star. But she's got issues, baby, as every singer do. You have to sing when you have issues. It's the only thing that'll take you away. Her mom struggles with drugs, and she hates her mom to the point, like, her mom has messed her up so much that she changes her number anytime her mom finds her number, which is, listen, I was a girl who didn't talk to her mom. My mom and I repaired our relationship. I'm very thankful for that, because I know that it's not often the story, but never have I ever gone to such lengths. Also, I'm not rich like her, so maybe I would have been different if I was. I don't think so. I think I would be spending my money on things that matter more. I don't know. That's just me. So Juliette loves Deacon, right? Like, it's this weird, there's definitely an age gap, right? But she just kind of does whatever she wants. She flirts with Scarlett's boyfriend, who's so into it, and then that has a beautiful arc, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that in other seasons, and not necessarily this one. But no, they're setting up something in this very moment. They knew. Everybody knew. So Rayna, her tour is not doing well because, older woman and society's prejudiced. I think it's changing because I feel like we have so many, we're mother, right? Now we're saying mother to the context of older women, and I love it, and I don't want it to change. But they are really strongly encouraging, and by they, I mean the record label, are like, hey, Rayna, you should do a headline with Juliette. Like, you should open for her and introduce your music to a new generation. Like, they'll love you. I feel like Rayna is supposed to be like a Shania Twain sort of thing, like maybe a Faith Hill, like in that realm. I don't know a lot about, like, the behind the scenes of country stars, but I think that that's sort of like that. So also just understand Rayna's immense amount of privilege, right? Like, in the audacity is her dad is going to have a day named after him. It's like Lamar Day or whatever. Listen, we're not excited about it. He's a crook. He's just a crook, baby. So you've got producers hooking up with Juliette because she's just being a slut. She's young in the music industry. She can be. Why are we even calling it slut? Slut in a good way is what I mean. But you know what I mean? Like, she's vibing. She can sleep with whoever she wants. She's making more moves of her old Connie, aka Rayna. And Rayna does not like her sound, doesn't like her attitude, felt snubbed by her because she, like, talked to the producer over Juliette, and she also overhears that Rayna doesn't like her, and that, like, makes her mad because she's got all sorts of insecurities because guess who her mom was? You know what I mean? Her mom was not there for her. So Juliette decides we're gonna get dirty because that's how women play in the South, and that's why I left to the West, y'all, even though women still kind of do this in the West, but it's not. It's more half and half in the South. This is just, I feel like, woman culture. Like, I've yet to find it because the patriarchy just rules with its big old boot over there. The women it's just constant competition, constant battling. I hate it. So Juliette is going to poach Deacon from Rayna and try to seduce him. And Rayna's dad has talked her husband, Teddy, into running for mayor. Let's talk about her and Teddy for a second. Teddy is a handsome man. He looks like a young JFK type, definitely, like, nailing the politician casting. However, it is a little weird, right? Country music star politician, you don't think it would go. It goes in Nashville. It works for this until it doesn't, hint, hint. But, Rayna gets a bit mad at her dad, and her dad reveals, well, you wouldn't even have this music career if it wasn't for me because I bought a record company for you. And I made your first album, and you should stand by your man because he's done a lot of things for you, like taking a daughter that wasn't his, which is, I'll be honest, like, a man to do that is not, like, most men would, like, beat up the woman who asked them, right? Like, Teddy is very sweet. I do not think that the show does his character justice or really goes into what he was all about, unfortunately. But I don't know. I felt bad that her and Teddy have the rocks, right? We'll get more into that too. Anyway, so because Rayna doesn't want to do the tour and there's all this stuff with Juliette, they're like, hey, why don't you and Deacon just go on a tour together? Just the two of you. Just you. And so they decide that they're going to write a song together to appease the record company and get some of Juliette's fans. But Connie is just infuriated by her. Like, I think part of it is maybe sees a little bit of herself in her. And also, I think sees Deacon in Juliette, and Deacon at his, like, worst in a lot of ways. And I think that really triggers her because that has kept Rayna into this kind of towing the line, doing the good thing. Because of, like, the devastation. Because Juliette is 100% just, like, a parallel of Deacon, right? So Rayna is just mad. You know, people are getting 500,000 guitars. Deacon has had substance abuse problems. That's what has caused their riff. And they clearly, like, she loved him so dearly. It does throughout the seasons. You see it. It's a very on and again, off again. Will they, won't they? Heartbreaking. Like, when he has his drug issues, it makes Rayna feel so unsafe, as it does, because it's like, it's literally seeing a person kill themselves, and what can you do? You can't, because they're addicted, and it's just a big old mess, huge mess. And yeah, so that's why they're not good, right? And Rayna definitely, like, kind of had Teddy save her in a moment, because it was kind of that thing of, like, you love somebody so much, but they're so bad for you. That is her and Deacon. It is. So Avery is kind of a jealous guy. Scarlett has moved from where her hometown is to be with him because he's kind of a jealous guy. They end up calling Rayna on stage, not Juliette, which kind of puts her in her place. Honestly, in the show, you will live for moments that Juliette is put into her place, because she is a country girl with an ego. Scarlett, who has this amazing, beautiful soprano, just go listen to it. It's like ethereal. Like, I am not convinced that the actress who plays Scarlett is not a fairy. Like, you can't tell me differently, because I don't know. I think that is a fae in real life, and I'm so attracted to it. But she gets a little bad at singing because she's too nervous, even though her voice is really good. Like, so she had to act in that moment. We find out that Rayna's mom had an affair with this music producer, and that's why her dad hates her career and wants her to just be a stay-at-home mom, and, like, her mom died, so, like, the sacredity of motherhood, and you can't be both, which is very much, the South is always, I think, wanting wealth that would come with a two working parent structure, but really wanting a stay-at-home mom, like a mom that's very present for the kids. And that is like there are so many learned helplessness things that, from my experience of living in the South, like, I just was not exposed to, because it was very much like, oh, you're a woman, you know what I mean? Like that. And part of that is I don't even identify as a woman now because of these stereotypes of the South that I felt like I had to be buttoned into. Like, there's so much they don't teach you, and they keep you small there. Sorry if you've got Southern pride, and obviously feminism is your right to choose. You can do that, but it's been very interesting being in bigger cities and seeing, like, my eyes open to stuff that I was just not allowed to do and not taught. Anyway, so that's Rayna's struggle, you know, it's very relatable. Juliette is struggling. She is very sad. She, you know, has memories of Bluebird Bassery with her mother, and then her and Deacon end up sleeping together. They at least kiss. I don't really like it. It's very weird because he's very older. She's obviously not in a place to do that, but like they're both a mess and they're both each other. And when you're suffering from addiction, there's a lot of narcissistic things going on, and yeah. So Juliette and Rayna then have this thing. I'm really glad that the writers abandoned this pretty soon after, but bear with me here. They have this thing where they're both going after Deacon. Like, Juliette gets him a $50,000 guitar. She skinny dips in front of him. Rayna is trying to get back into their old songwriting thing, but she still loves him, right? Like, it's that... I really feel for Rayna in this, and I think it's like... TV show doesn't cover how deep this feeling is, but... I was just thinking about it too. I was like, Nashville really is one of my guilty pleasures. Like, I'm going to put this on my favorite TV show list. And like, I get that it's soap opera-y and not all the plot lines make sense and they abandon so many things. But I really like the show. I like the way that it handled. There's something very much similar to my life about it that I don't always see. And I liked it a lot. The last seasons get rough, but there's some good stuff, at least always. So Juliette, like, is wanting a bigger fan base, like an older one that's not just preteen girls, because I think she doesn't feel like she's being taken seriously, and I think also has a longing to grow up, and in some ways, because her and Deacon are parallel, sees the self of Deacon, right? So is trying to, like, get him, but Deacon turns down Juliette's tour because he's like, hey, you just can't count on me, and Rayna is definitely feeling things again, being close with Deacon, and being back in that songwriting, like, it's just, they're just too in love. It's beautiful and sad and complicated. And Scarlett, meanwhile, is also having kind of a similar parallel in that her boyfriend Avery, right, is struggling in music. And Avery is like, it's like church alt, right? Like, he's Green Day country. Like, I don't know. I end up really liking Avery, but he is a little bit unbearable in the first couple of seasons. Like I said, he has a beautiful arc, but he's just like jealous and insufferable. And Scarlett is very much like trad wife all the way in a lot of ways, like a softer person. We find out later her mom's overbearing, but that's more of a season 2 deeper dive. But yeah, so she's like, oh, like, I got this great offer, and like people think Gunnar and I are dating, obviously, because we have great chemistry music that's like, what Rayna and Deacon have. And she's scared, of Avery getting jealous, and also like doesn't want to rub into his face like, oh, you're struggling, but I'm big time, and like, because she's trad wife, right? And she's really okay with being second. Like, I think she does, like, she has some dreams about it, but she is kind of just okay with, like, existing and having music as just a hobby and something beautiful, and I can kind of relate to that and can kind of not in the same way. But Avery eventually comes around and encourages Scarlett to go for it, which is very nice of him. I'm glad that he had at least that moment. So Rayna and Teddy are having money problems, which we will learn a little bit later why with Teddy, and Rayna is being stubborn and doesn't want to go to her dad, especially that he's like, oh, quit your job, you know what I mean? Like, come be a stay-at-home wife because I hate that your mom left me for a music guy. He's just being like that. And Scarlett is choking in the studio because she's like just very worried that like if she's successful, Avery's gonna leave her, and she loves Avery, but Avery like encourages her and is like, listen, you gotta do this. You are a great singer. You are worthy of all the greats that sang before you in that room. Like, go in there and crush it, and she does. And meanwhile, Juliette is just dealing with her mom. Her mom keeps showing up to set. People are giving her $100. Juliette is infuriated. She's like, stop giving her money. She's gonna spend it on drugs. And I don't have a similar, like, my mom was in control of her finances like I was a kid in my mom's, like, deepest struggle with her substances. And I'm just very glad that I've never been in the position to be higher, because I'm like, I don't think that I could do what Juliette did, which is, like, not give her money, send her on buses, like, just trying to get her away. Like, I don't think I could be that person. Like, when I'm the one who reached out to my mom, because my mom was the one who was not talking to me for whatever reason, mostly because her abusive husband, like, was making her in some ways, and to be safe, she felt she had to do that, but it cost me a whole relationship, and I don't know what it did for that guy, you know what I mean? But, yeah, like, I ended up reaching out to her because I just hated not having mom. Like, it was so hard to have conversations with people, even if our relationship isn't perfect, and it still isn't now, obviously it was damaged, and it's like, it's a lot of working through that. the thing that Juliette has to go through to like not having a mom and being angry anytime there was a mom, like I couldn't carry that anymore. And like in a way we'll find in the season that Juliette lets it go, and her mom has this like beautiful conversation, one of my favorite scenes in Nashville, where she's like, well, I'm your mom, you know what I mean? And you need to, like, I raised you, you need to be here for me. I'm your daughter. But then Juliette like claps back and she's like, no, there was a time when I needed you, and you were not here. And yeah, it's just, I love it. I love Undermine, the songs. I forgot to be talking about the songs, which is pretty silly. Oh, I should also talk about who Maddie and Daffy are. They're like Brad Stella's kids. So they're Nepo babies. I had thought that they got on Nashville because of their YouTube video, which is that Robin song, it's just very good. So like Beautiful has millions of views. But they were actually on Nashville before. That's probably one of the reasons it went viral. But yeah, I love Undermine. Her and Deacon wrote it together. It's very good. If I Didn't Know Better is like haunting, very, very amazing. And they end up letting Juliette's mom stay, but Juliette does not love that. Juliette is very much like very triggered by it, and she goes and then like has to deal with it somehow and rebels and steals nail polish. And of course, because she's a celebrity and there's not a private moment, somebody records her stealing the nail polish, and it's gonna cost her. It's gonna cost her, babes. So the police show up for Juliette, which I don't know that they would. I mean, the video's all over, but it is like, how much is nail polish? Like $8. That was 2012 too. It might have been $2. Inflation is ridiculous. But anyway, so poor Juliette can't present anymore at the VMAs. So she has to go to this interview, and it's going fine. She's talking about like why she stole or whatever. And I mean, later she even admits to her manager, like the reason that she steals things is like, it's something when she was little, she felt like it gave her control over her life. And, but the interview then takes a sour turn because they bring up the mom's arrest, and Juliette walks out, which is not great. Like, they're not gonna do the tour. Like, sponsors are pulling out. It's not great. Deacon is invited to the like Teddy's campaign, and it's also kind of bad because like Teddy, he's not voting for Teddy because they obviously have like a rivalry because they like the same girly, and Deacon is voting for Coleman, who honestly got screwed in all of this with by Lamar backing Teddy because he was supposed to do Coleman, and I don't even know why this all happened. And it's hard because poor Teddy is just like, you know, embezzling, just straight up embezzling. And it's also hard because Teddy says things to Rayna, like when she's feeling insecure about how there's all these other politician wives, and like Peggy, you know, had like the hots for him still, and so many other people would make a better politician wife than she would because she's just like a rock star. He's like, you dazzle me, right? Politicians, just complex guys. So Deacon is getting in a fight with Teddy because he feels like he's sucking up to Lamar, and they just have to have a heart-to-heart of like leaving, you know what I mean? Like they can't keep doing this. It's too complicated. Y'all, Teddy had embezzled $2 million. That's so much money. So Rayna and Deacon get into a fight because Deacon will not sign over the song for commercials where she can make a lot of money. So she just ends up writing a song herself because that's Rayna. She just does what she does. Rayna's honestly an awesome character. She doesn't need a lot of growth. And there's a lot of drama between the Scarlett, Avery, and Gunnar situation. Avery gets really jealous of Gunnar with Scarlett. He's insecure. To be honest, Scarlett is way out of his league. It's weird that Juliette is more in his league and she's like more famous, but Scarlett feels like just really conflicted about like, does she have to play small? And like, she allows Avery to be on the song, but he like overpowers with this like guitar solo and it costs them a deal and gets mad, even though Gunner's like, it's acting, and Avery's like, well, it's damn good acting that you guys are making eyes at each other. And I get it, because like their chemistry is off the charts and they are my ship, and I'm so mad at you guys that it doesn't work out the way that I want it to. But anyway, so that's all that's happening over there. Yeah, Avery is blowing it in a lot of ways, and Gunner's trying to move on. He clearly has something for Scarlett, and Scarlett, obviously, like, makes it clear that that's not going to happen. Coleman is also Deacon's sponsor, and Deacon, seeing, Juliette's struggle, and also does mature things of, like, oh, Juliette is, like, a child, like, I need to not sleep with her to just kind of get back at Rayna, because I can't have Rayna, and Rayna's with Teddy, and that's driving him crazy, right? Like, so he's like, I need to be with, I need to be by myself. Juliette needs to be by herself. Like I said, they're like parallels of each other as characters. And Juliette is just struggling, like, that her mom was here. She finds her mom with, like, a bunch of pills and this guy, and, like, goes to Deacon, and he's like, I've been through, like, almost every rehab. I know a good place. Let's get her in. And figure all that out, and Juliette is super grateful, tries to kiss him. Deacon, like, stops all of that, and Juliette's mom, like, slaps her when she's going to rehab, but goes, but it's intense. Like, their relationship is not okay, like, and it's hard too, because her mom still loves her, is just, struggling, because it's a mental illness addiction. It's also a physical illness in a lot of ways, so she's struggling, and yeah, it's brutal. It's not well. It's not great. And yeah, so that is all that's going on. So much drama with the rehab stuff. And Deacon is, like, triggered because he had to, like, have the pills, and he was, like, thinking about taking them. And I love the song Sideshow that he does, because it's such a well-written song for where they're at. And the actor who plays Deacon is just phenomenal. Like, you just care about him so much. Even though he is often just a giant butt most of the time, and it's hard to deal. So he ends up even getting into a bar fight, because just get used to Deacon. It's like, he just wrecks things every so often, and it's just, like, chaotic, and it's not, I don't know if it's not well acted or well written or well directed, I don't know, because it just, like, spurs up. Like, he'll be fine, normal guy, and then just is chaotic, and I guess that is really how it happens, like, I was dissociating for most of my childhood with addicts, so I can't be, like, clear as to what, you know what I mean? Like, to me, it feels normal because it's what I grew up with, but this, on TV, it's jarring, you know what I mean? So he ends up getting arrested. He calls Rayna, but she, she's done. She's not doing this thing, and I honestly think good for her. I think she needs this boundary with him, and she ends up turning to, like, Juliette to get him out of jail, which she does. I'm glad that they have something, you know what I mean? And yeah. But because Rayna is brilliant and independent, she ends up working out this other song for the commercial so she can still get the financial deal, and she doesn't need Deacon. We love to see a girl boss winning. So we see Juliette kind of having this, like, thing for the quarterback. She is being nice to him. And Teddy is not doing very good on the polls. So they decide that he is gonna hurt Coleman, and that's not great. Avery apologizes to Scarlett for ruining her big chance, and he promises to pay rent. He's kind of being a deadbeat. Like I said, he's got a character arc, so just hang on. So Rayna wants to meet this Liam guy who's won a bunch of Grammys, because she's just, like, needs to go to the top. I think too, like, her and Teddy are both ambitious people in a way, so that's what's happening. And they're making Juliette go on a date with the quarterback, who she thinks is just boring, and she's not feeling it. She's not She's not like that. And then this one guy finds Avery and thinks that he would be a great opener for the Lumieres. And Scarlett is really excited because she knows how to be supportive, even though he does not. Liam won't produce Rayna's songs because he's like, I don't get moms and SUVs, which was super sexist, but I imagine that's accurate of Nashville. And Deacon hasn't been drinking. He only went to jail. He's not on his deathbed. Which, jail is not, it's not great, Deacon, but he's doing how he's doing. And he also tells Avery to not spend too much money on a manager. Rayna lectures Liam about how he made a snap judgment without even listening to him. And she's like, I know about a song that you sang in Belfast. And then he's like, okay, I got it. And then Lamar set up poor Coleman to get pulled over by cops. Coleman is black, by the way, so this is an extra unfair thing because, as we know, the police target minorities, which is awful. And it just is like a whole politic move to try to make him look bad. And Peggy and Teddy are photographed like hugging and taking pictures. And then we find out that the cops find Oxycontin, which are the drugs that Deacon handed over to him. So he basically gets busted for having oxytocin, and it looks like this is this whole thing in the election. It's not very good. And Juliette learns that Sean doesn't drink. She calls him a choir boy for that, which, yeah, is super related to sobriety and choir boys. Sean punches a paparazzi who is, like, making fun of Juliette about her mom and her shoplifting stunt, which is really uncalled for the paparazzi. Like, kind of deserved to get punched. So Rayna has a bad hangover because she went drinking out with Liam. And Coleman releases his blood so that he can show that he's drug-free. He said that, he had the drugs because there was a good man who wanted to avoid temptation. And Rayna believes him because he's such a man of strong resolve. And she realizes that it's her dad. I guess she just knows him because that's a lot to put together for me. And yeah, Juliette's publicist is very, very mad because of the drunkenness, and there's like an assault in public with Sean, but she's like, Sean wasn't even drinking, and she like shows this picture of Sean where he looks wasted, and that's the media, guys. It can make you look a certain way. And Rayna doesn't remember anything, and Liam is like, look, here's a song we recorded, and she really likes it, but she doesn't remember recording it, which that's not amazing. So Deacon confesses to Scarlett that Marilyn, this manager that Avery's been talking to, only signs guys under 30 and only signs them after a certain closeness is established. And Avery is making out with this manager, which is not good, but he stops and he says he can't do it. But Scarlett is super upset, and he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. And it's like, yo, you really kissed, and you're not even going to say anything. And she is like, you know what? The fact that you're even thinking about it is not okay with me. So Juliette buys off the photographer paparazzi, and another photographer is showing the pictures of Teddy and Peggy together and is like, cheating husbands are something that I am like really good at. And Scarlett moves back in with Deacon because her and Avery are not doing well, and Avery goes to hook up with the manager. And I hate it. We hate a casting couch. We do not stand that. So then we have some Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce before they were a thing. Funny how media predicts itself, repeats itself. But basically, the tabloids are saying that, like, Juliette is making Sean not perform well, and because loving a life that makes somebody not focus on the game. But it's just kind of because of Juliette's bad reputation. And Avery slept with the manager, right? So he's going to be a big hit, right? Because sex equals success. And he is feeling bad that he doesn't have Scarlett because she had been to every small gig, but now she has something like so big and she's gone because he cheated on her, and she 100% deserved better. And it's not my ship. You know what I mean? You know who my ship is. You know who my ship is. Don't worry. And, Juliette is mad that they only want her to perform one song when she was very popular, and they're just like, hey, there's just like too much negativity with you. We can't let you, but we could let you close the show if you do it with Rayna, who will like balance you out. And Rayna and Juliette don't always see eye to eye, so it's rough. Scarlett is like not writing. She's really sad about the breakup. And Teddy is trying to get Coleman to drop out of the race, but Coleman has like pictures with Peggy and Teddy and says, well, this is going to go to the press, even though like they're just like hugging. I don't think it's anything very bad, but I think Teddy doesn't want to get into the embezzlement that he's covering up of $2 million. You know what I'm saying? That's a bit much. And yeah, he's just too worried about it. I think Rayna would have been mad, but I think they would have worked through it had he come clean. But I think it's like way too much in the future now. And Scarlett is just Snow White in it, doing all of the housework. And yeah, so we're getting a little chaos. This was one of the episodes where it was like picking up. It's still always cheesy, old Nashville, but yeah. So Juliette doesn't want to play nice with Rayna, but will duet. And I do like their duet together. I like when they are friends, and I'm glad that they don't pit each other against like old versus new, boo, 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 you know what I mean? And it's just like, and also at one point, Gunnar was like, oh, I like your high heel shoes, Scarlett. And I was like, is this a foot fetish, or if he just like is not used to seeing her dressed up? But it's weird. And I just don't know how to feel about that. Mr. Tarantino. So Gunnar, obviously in love with Scarlett, and that's my ship, and I'm so mad it doesn't work out. It should work out. It's so dumb that it doesn't. And Teddy goes to Peggy and is like, hey, you should talk to your husband and say that we aren't involved romantically, like that's not the secret. We should, I'm gonna come clean. And Gunnar is like all mad when this guy is over Scarlett, and Gunnar's girlfriend Haley notices and then feels terrible, right? Because that's not fun to know, like, the person that I totally thought he was in love with somebody else, and he said he was in love with me, and then it turns out that it's not that. And then Gunnar gets all mad at this guy kissing Scarlett, and then Scarlett is like, yo, you can't like do that, like I'm allowed to have fun. And then Rayna is rude to Juliette, says, you've done nothing to earn your place at this label. And Deacon is like, you need to listen to what Juliette has written and then decide about your talents. You can't just write her off because you think about somebody. But Juliette at least has Sean's like arms, and she like tries to have sex with him, but he's like, I'm not into casual sex. And she's like, what, are you gay? Because yeah, those are synonymous. But early 2000s, you guys, early 2000 teens, I guess. And he's like, no, I like to take things slow. And Scarlett is like, Avery, like, I miss you. But then she sees the manager not wearing her clothes. And he's like, don't worry about it. We didn't start sleeping together until we broke up. Which is, I mean, he kissed and, like, didn't say about it. So it's not good. Anyway, yeah, Juliette and Rayna have a great song, and Scarlett kind of makes up with Gunnar and is like, you know what, you've helped me change my life, and I'm really, like, grateful for it, even though, like, change is hard. And Sean comes clean and is like, hey, I don't like to have sex out of marriage. Like, I believe in that. And she's like, okay, like, maybe we get married, you know, because I want the sex. And I'm like, Juliette, I mean, she wasn't raised right? Like, she was not raised at all. And yeah. So Teddy chokes and doesn't tell Rayna about the embezzlement when he has a chance. So frustrating. And then he also disses Peggy when she comes to him and is like, I told my husband Robert, and he's flying down from Hong Kong, and he's like, leave, you're not supposed to be around me. The worst, but men do behave like this. And then Juliette is meeting Sean's family, and Sean's sister is, like, a huge fan of hers and wants her to sing in the choir, and she's like, yep, I'll do it. So Gunnar and his girl break up. We knew it was going to happen. It's not my ship. I don't care. But basically, because Gunnar got all mad and was like, why did you tell Scarlett to go with this other band? And she's like, because you're in love with her, so we're throughsies, bye. Now a free man, Gunnar confesses to Scarlett that he has liked her since, like, the moment he saw her. He's a lover boy. We love him. I stan them. I love them a lot. And I want it. You know what I mean? I want it. I want it. I want it. And yeah, Juliette buys boots for Sean's sister. And then we're going to get into some drama, unfortunately. Peggy has tried killing herself. She took pills. I, like, hate it. It feels very drastic, but suicide attempts, like, I mean, that probably would happen in that amount of stress. So she is like, okay, Teddy, like, obviously something is going on. And then he comes clean about how he laundered the money, and she is so shocked, and he is like, these are crimes, and you did it all to protect yourself, not about his family. I don't trust you anymore. And, like, she's gonna take the kids. She's trying to get out of there ASAP. She's done, baby. She doesn't want to be associated with him. He is beneath her now. And now he's, like, acting just like her father, who she has issues with. So Sean's mom is just like, to Juliette, like, oh, I've read about you in the press, and, like, you will never be brought into your family and not your mother. Like, you're not going to be one of us. And she's like, wow, I really care about Sean, so that's sad for you. And she's mad that her sister didn't tell about Teddy's embezzlement. Rayna is just, like, super upset. And Juliette gets all mad because Deacon hands her a letter from her mother, and she's like, why are you receiving any letters from my mom? Like, what is that about? And he's like, well, because you're not answering your mom's calls. And Scarlett, not on board for the ship yet. She's just like, hey, I need some time to think. I'm really confused. And then they have to, like, take a break on their partnership for a while. And Avery's manager is like, all right, you need to dump the band you've been with forever. It's the manager's suggestion. This is the one time I agree with this, like, weird manager, that I think he is right to let go of the band. And it does bring in other stuff, but it is, like, morally, you know, meh. And that's, like, kind of the heart of Nashville, is, like, what do you do for the biz and what do you do for your friends? And yeah. And then Deacon comes to see Rayna, obviously, because he thinks this is his chance, but she's like, it's complicated. And yeah, Deacon is like, I'm thinking about going on this road trip, and she's like, yeah, go for it. And Rayna goes to the press and is like, Teddy's, really has a lot of love for us and our daughters, and he is not a cheater. And the photos are trying to bring their family down, and she's not going to dignify them with a comment. That's Rayna's like go-to. And Gunnar and Scarlett's song is about to be released. So back onto the partnership. Deacon accepts the trip, and Juliette, feeling like inspired by Sean's mother's comments, is like, let's get married before we go on a co-tour, because the single that they released is straight up fire. Like, it's her proposing to him, it's giving mommy issues. It's giving that. So Juliette and Sean are having sex in the limo because they eloped and got married. And Gunnar and Scarlett, meanwhile, are having a difficult time writing songs together. And Juliette says, hey, everybody, I got married. And Rayna's like, okay, but I want to leave on Sunday because I got to get away from my husband. And it's business and we both need each other. And then Sean told his parents, unfortunately, they are not happy. And so Sean's mom wants a big church wedding by the end of the month. But Juliette is like, no, I'm going on tour. But they're like, okay, we can have the wedding Saturday before they go on tour. And it's too much. I would crack. So Rayna is like, yeah, Teddy, I want to take the girls on tour because you're toxic. I don't trust you. You're the worst. And Teddy's like, no, you are not going to take them away from me or I'm going to fight. And Sean is like, hey, I don't want you, Juliette, to go on tour because you should have discussed it with me. You were married. And she's like, no, there's no point of discussing football or music with each other. And Tandy is like, I don't think Rayna should go. It's too close to elections. But Teddy's like, I cannot try and stop her. She needs the space. I might lose everything. And Liam is like, you should just not do a tour. I think that's going to ruin your career. You should do an album. And Rayna is like, I hear ya. I need to leave Nashville for a while because my marriage sucks. And Avery breaks it that he's going as a solo act, and he is accused of being selfish and screwing his friends over, which is accurate. Very Avery of him to do. That's kind of his vibe for the first couple of seasons. And it is what it is, it is what it is. It's not ideal, but you do the best with what you can. So yes. Sorry, I'm recording this so late at night at this point that I am like, what is time? What is life? And yeah, and so Sean's mother and Juliette are going over these wedding arrangements, and she's just, of course, very mean to Juliette and is like, oh, look, there's no one from your family attending the wedding. Like, so cruel, so mean. And Rayna's dad is like, if you fought for custody, it would be a bad idea because it's going to bring up all the paternity details of the daughters. And Rayna's like, just get out of here. Like, don't even talk to me. I'm so mad. Scarlett has packed all of her stuff, wishes him luck, and they end up kind of slipping back into it and kissing. Deacon is told about, like, hey, maybe change up your style a bit. And Deacon is curious as who is going to guitar for Rayna, but she is kind of struggling finding a guitar player. And Juliette introduces Sean to all the band of the team, and he's like, hey, I called your mom's rehab and scheduled a meeting. And Juliette is like, nope. And she's like, listen, I have a very complicated relationship with my mother, so I just want to go in first. Scarlett and Avery have sex, and then she learns about Avery being selfish and going solo, and she's so mad, and she's like, all you're doing is hurting people. And Juliette tells her mom about the wedding, because that's why Sean wanted to meet, because he was like, you should be here. And her mom is like, Juliette, you have a deep hole in your soul, and you will not be able to feel it with marrying someone you barely know. And Juliette's like, wow, you can't stand to see me happy. And then she leaves, even though I think her mom is a little bit right about this one. Like, she's definitely, like, rushing and trying to compensate. And Scarlett has Avery's friend come collect stuff because Avery didn't have the guts to return it to him. And he has to, like, cancel a show that was supposed to be done. And she's like, hey, you know what? I know all your songs. I can sing it if you guys want me. So they go for it. And Haley is getting promoted. That was Gunner's old girlfriend. And she is trying to get Scarlett and Gunner back together in the band. And she's like, listen, you're better together than apart. And Teddy gets so mad about that Rayna's father was going to disclose the truth, and was like, if you ever do that again, I'm done with you. And Rayna's dad is like all surprised that Teddy knows about it, but like, of course he does. Like, Rayna is real and like actually very good. Scarlett kills it with JT and the boys, and she's like, let's make this a permanent thing if you want. But she's got to think about it. And Juliette lies to Sean that it went well with her mom. But she's like, let's just go away for somewhere a while. Deacon sleeps with Carmen, and Avery is watching Scarlett kind of take over his position of the band, which is probably, really revving up his jealousy monster. And Rayna is like, Teddy, we got to be honest. Like, the problem between us has been going on for years. And, the girls still love us, so we shouldn't hurt them. She was like, listen, the girls can stay with him, and she will go on tour. And the tour is the perfect cover. And Teddy really wants to make it work. Rayna's still debating. And Sean gives Juliette his grandmother's pendant to wear for the wedding, which is very sweet because she doesn't have a lot of family things. But Juliette kind of just gets into her head, and she doesn't take the pendant, and she tosses it like aside, which is very rude, and she just gets out of the car and goes to the plane for the tour. So, ruh-roh, no nuptial bliss. So Rayna is having issues with her current guitarist, and it's all, she wants to be with Deacon. We all know it. She wants Deacon to be at her side. If Teddy and her are not going well, it's Deacon, right? She's that kind of girl. I've been that kind of girl. I get it. We learn that Gunner is from Texas, much to the surprise of Scarlett and Deacon. Teddy wants to earn the votes for himself, but he doesn't want to cheat because he is already gotten to where he is by just being a little bit slimy, not so great. And Juliette hasn't gotten a divorce, but she finally gives an interview and says, her idea of a marriage was a mistake. And she is like, I had to say this because I need to convey my message to Sean, and that will make him sign the divorce papers. And then she gets served when she's signing autographs for her fans, which is like, really glad my divorce happened not in the spotlight, but also I was the one who served because he would not help with the divorce, even though he was the one who walked out. Literal insanity and immaturity. Like, I think if you're going to be the one to leave, you are the one who needs to sort out the paperwork. And yeah. So Gunner goes to prison to pick up his brother Jason, who's just been released. Surprise, surprise. And then Rayna gives Liam
like one of
cowboy boots, which he will not end up wearing because he
assault
is not
Scarlett,
Deacon. And
they
he's
dropped
like, you
this.
don't want to get up on stage without Deacon, you're scared.
and it's because
you know,
you're
trauma
in love with him
after this, which would be more accurate.
Liam, though, is still helpful, even though
but
he's
Deacon
like
then
annoyingly
goes
accurate at calling out
and,
Rayna's faults, which like
beats
makes
him
her
up
mad, but
and
also
has
makes
to
her
quit the
respect
band,
him.
obviously.
Because
And
Juliette
then
at one point is like still practicing her
Jason,
songs and isn't
Gunner's
giving her
brother,
the stage, even
is
though
carrying a
it's supposed to
gun,
be
which
Rayna's
is a
turn.
violation of his
But
parole.
Liam talks, and then
I don't know
bada
why
bing, bada boom, it's all solved.
The minute they're out of prison, they're
I
like,
didn't
you know what I'm gonna
understand
do the thing that's gonna get me right back
Avery's,
into prison. Like I don't.
Dominic
good?
trick contract
I've heard on the
thing.
streets,
I have no idea what's
but
going on, but
who knows?
we'll let you know
Also,
if I
to be
can
terrible
decipher
too,
it
Jason
from my
is
notes,
sold
but
Gunner's
that is also
guitar,
happening. Gunner comes clean
Jason
to
is all
Scarlett
mad
about
that
his brother.
Gunner left him in the parking
Juliette
lot
admits to Sean that
when he robbed the
committed
store,
fraud
and
because
Gunner's
she gave
like,
a false
I was
representative
16
of her marriage.
and I'm not the one who robbed the
And
store, you did.
she
So then they make up.
admits that, you know, she was
And
never going to be the wife that he deserved.
Teddy
which
is upset that
her low
Rayna is
self-esteem
not going to be home
gutting. It's very
for
sad.
the big
And
vote and find out day.
Rayna ends up showing up for Teddy.
Big
and
election,
he
big
has won the
mayor
election.
time. I don't,
And
I know politics
yuck.
totally.
And Coleman is
And
like,
so
he's going to continue to fight for
Rayna is
hardworking
like, okay,
people.
I probably should
against
go home and be with
the
him just
greedy
for like
ones.
the girls.
Gives credit to his
and
wife.
It's
And
rough,
super awkward for Rayna and Teddy. And Tandy, Rayna's sister, accuses Lamar of buying the elections for Teddy. And she's like, oh, I'll never speak to you again. But is just joking, which is gross. And Peggy admits that taking the pills was a mistake and she didn't intend to hurt herself, which is okay. I mean, that's what she did. That's sometimes natural is that you regret suicidal intentions or tries, but I don't feel like anybody in a mental health field was consulted in the storyline. So, okay. But anyway, he is not interested in her congratulating him, and she is so sure that he will be a good mayor, and she's about to kiss him, but doesn't. So for the Rebel Kings, oh my god, listen. Anyway, they're bad, so I don't have to respect them to get their name right. Anyway, they have put out a piece about Deacon and being like, oh, he's fallen off the wagon, and not, oh, our one lead band member tried to rape his niece. And now Deacon can't speak for Juliette's mom, Jolene, at our court hearing because of the article, and it should be Juliette, and she is just like, Liam is trying to squeal old Rayna away, old Liam, and basically kind of be the new Deacon in that way, but Rayna's like, I went through this, I don't know about all that again. Gunner gets super upset and takes it on Scarlett because his brother didn't show up to the halfway house, so it's not ideal. He shouldn't be taken out on Scarlett. Poor Scarlett just has toxic men working out their crap around her all the time. But also, I feel bad for Gunner because the whole brother thing is really intense. Then there is a redemption arc for Gunner's brother that he gives back the guitar, so there's that. There's hope for people, maybe. Juliette then finds Deacon in his absolutely trashed apartment. He's not drinking, but, you know, he's not mentally well. And Juliette is like, you gotta do what you love. That's what got sober. And he's like, I got sober for Rayna. And he's like, what kept me sober is the hope for something that's not ever gonna happen. Little does he know, right? Little does he know. This interaction inspires a heartfelt exchange between Juliette and her mom, that she's proud of her mom for getting better. And I feel the same way about my mom, you know what I mean? And then her mom also says that she's in awe of her, which my mom says to me too, and that's how mother and daughter relationships should be, and it's very good. But then to add a little more flair and drama, Deacon has joined Juliette's band, and we'll see what happens. Gunner's roommates are like drawn turtles on the side. Honestly, they sound awesome, but also, how did he fall asleep and not notice the turtles being drawn on him? Anyway, very silly. Avery also owes Scarlett a bunch of money, and she's worried that she's not going to make rent, and she is scared. So, freaking Avery, you guys. He makes me upset. He makes me upset a lot. And Juliette has a crowd pleaser in Chicago. Rayna is wowing people with Already Gone. And she has like a lot of background dancers and glitter as she belts out "I'm a Girl," and Deacon is trying to adjust, but is like, that's not how Rayna did it. They had a different style, and Juliette doesn't even really like the brand she's putting out there, and her manager Glenn is just like, listen, like, just let's not rock the boat. There's already been a lot. And Deacon is like, listen, there's thinking about doing something, and then there's just doing it. And Rayna is going with her dream of getting a new label because she wants to bring in some new acts, and she really likes Scarlett and Gunnar would be her first signing, and they're exactly like how she and Deacon used to be. And then Peggy and Teddy are meeting up, and Teddy's already mad, thinking that Rayna had something to do with Deacon. And she lets Teddy know that she's like moved close by. He gives her a ride home, and he's like, just so you know, I'm single, is what she says. Oh no, just a little, hi, not a girl's girl move, but I can understand. They honestly probably are better for each other. And she's like, you know what, you don't have to work so hard to make someone love you. And they kiss in the car. Cheater, cheater, pumpkin eater. Not so good. How could you cheat on Rayna, who is definitely kind of been doing something similar, but it is what it is. So Scarlett and Gunnar are performing One Works Better, and the roommates come that are Gunnars, and they interrupt things, and she realizes that the pay for that gig is going to be short for rent now. Meanwhile, Avery is over here being filmed for a TV show that is on up-and-coming music artist, and he is like, well, you broke up with me, and you're the one living there, so you're even. He doesn't owe you any rent. He's like the worst, guys. He really needs the redemption arc, like, ASAP. And it's just, I just don't like it. I just really am upset with him. And Deacon is like icing out Rayna on the scubblet of Scarlett, and just so mature. The men here, but that's Southern men. They're like the most immature men ever. Like, they're compelling and hot and really hard workers, but sometimes they stuff it all down. They stuff it. It's really rough. And Scarlett is like, listen, you should be my new roommate, Gunnar, because of your roommates, but there are rules. You can't walk around the kitchen naked, and she won't play banjo in the shower. And Juliette then goes into the concert with like jeans and a white t-shirt, and they play Consider Me. She wants to go in like a new direction. I also understand it would be a lot to be, those glittering costumes are not comfortable. Like, they are not pretty. And if you're on the tour all the time, and Teddy and Peggy hooked up, had some sex, and they have regrets about it. And Juliette does really good, but a music reviewer recorded it live and sent it on like an online bash fest, which, because it was like a brave experiment or whatever. This would be like the hardest part of being famous, is like all the opinions on your work. Like, that is something like I am trying to mentally be ready for more and more. But if it doesn't care, like, it's so much easier. Like, even now, like, I didn't make a whole TV show. I have no idea. And here I am criticizing it on the internet. It's super easy. This way is way more easier than actually going out and making the dang show. I do it to like get better at making my show and learn from the way things are and understand it. Anyway, Juliette like gets in her head, lets herself be tortured by all these tweets, and Glenn accuses Deacon of filling Juliette's head with all these crazy thoughts and stuff, because he's trying to fill the void of like Rayna. And he is again in an elevator with Rayna, and they end up kissing, and then he exits, which is just so complicated, and Rayna is just like so confused. Poor Rayna. Her and Deacon's relationship is so hard in these early moments. It's just so much. But if I ain't shipping them anyway, y'all, I'm getting into the southern spirit. It's always within me. So they move Gunnar's things into what Scarlett's mother considered Scarlett's room, and then Avery gives Scarlett the money owes, but accuses her of sleeping with Gunnar. And then they're fighting, and Avery loses and gets decked, which is just rough. And they show Emily shows Juliette that, you know, she wasn't the only one who loved her song, and there's like a viral hit, and Juliette is just really grateful because sometimes the haters can distract you. That's what they want to do. They want to distract you from the good. So it's just always a reminder to pursue what you love. And Rayna thinks that Deacon's going to be at the door, but then it's Teddy, and he's like, yeah, I left the girls with Tandy, and Deacon was gonna come talk to her, but sees Teddy's there, and then, you know, like, stuffs it all inside. And Juliette tells Glenn that, you know, she's growing, and growing comes changes. And Gunnar admits that he learned to fight from his brother, who was in prison, and that they weren't always model citizens. And Scarlett's like, you know what, I don't have a problem with that. And Rayna listens to Teddy, and Teddy is like, you know, things aren't going to change for them. There's not going to be a magical moment where Rayna loves him, and he wants a divorce. Probably for the best, you know? It wasn't working. They didn't really fit in the world. I feel like Teddy is so much Rayna's, like, trying to, you know, just, like, trying to appease her dad, trying to date her dad, trying to solve a childhood issue. I think Deacon is the same way in a lot of ways of, like, and also her being like, I don't want to be, like, dependent on you in this way, like, where you're just gonna let me down. I think she had to put up blocks because Deacon's definitely got some issues. And Teddy totally cock-blocked Rayna with the divorce, gots to say. Now we're on episode 13, and Rayna is obviously not herself. She can pull it together to sing. I don't know how I would perform on stage to all these people if, like, I don't know, like, the father of one of my children, at least, is divorcing me, and it's this big thing. Like, that would be a lot. She hooks up again with Liam. They're sharing a kiss. They're drinking. But she stops it and kind of goes to the bathroom, and she just is breaking down. And Glenn is trying to reel Juliette in because she's making drastic changes to her brand. And she is just the force, you know. I think our Taylor Swift stand-in, if Taylor Swift had stayed in the country. And Glenn is, you know, trying to protect the brand that she has and all the fans that she has gained. So he's, like, telling all the bandmates that, you know, every change has to go through him first. And Deacon is like, that's weird. And he lets it slip to Juliette. And Juliette is slamming hotel doors and then slams her hand in a hotel door. Somebody had to get hurt. It's number 13 episode. And she gets all of the sleepy crew in the hallway to let them know that they only take orders from her. And Glenn is, like, done because basically now Juliette is overstepping his job and I think just making him feel inferior, and it's Nashville, men have egos, you know what I mean? So Liam gets opened up to by Rayna, and basically they talk about how difficult divorce is, and he's like, you know, Rayna, like, there's no way around it. Telling your girls is going to be incredibly hard, but looking back in his own life, his parents' divorce was the best thing that could have happened to him, because it's just like, you know, like, if they were keep fighting, it wasn't going to work for him. Like, their happiness ultimately would have affected him anyway, and if it's a better match, it's a better match. And then Deacon also tells Juliette that he would personally quit if Juliette ever talked to him the way that she talks to Glenn. And he then sees also Rayna with Liam, which is not good. And Juliette also has just, like, a moment of tenderness and reaches out to her mom to say, hey, you can stay with me when you get out of rehab. Avery is frustrated with his career. He doesn't like the music that Dominic wants him to play. He's staying in a rundown motel because he's not sleeping with Marilyn anymore. But there's a potential 6-figure advance if he teams with them in a publishing deal. Maybe I get into music, you know what I'm saying? And they're kind of like, you know, Gunnar and Scarlett, they're just songwriters, but he's the full package because he'll sing it too. So they've got Marilyn also advising him to not take the easy money because it's like, this could be worth millions later. I don't know, I might start there, but that's my bad advice. What do I know about anything? And Avery kind of like understands that Marilyn would always find like another young singer who's gonna make it to the big time, and he ends up signing away his publishing rights for $100,000. And Gunnar is in the kitchen wearing a towel, and Scarlett's like, there's a rule about not being naked. And they get great news that Rayna wants to sign her and Gunnar to the new record label. And unfortunately, Gunnar's brother shows back up in town, and he, I guess fortunately also, claims to ditch the gun that he had. And he wants a place to stay, and Scarlett is like, I don't want to harbor a fugitive. Like, this is a lot. This is illegal. But Gunnar is like, hey, let's just let my brother crash at the place for one night. And he makes eggs for them in the morning. So, you know, what? Commit a crime for free eggs. Scarlett lets the brother stay a little bit longer because he helped them like perform a song, and music bonds us together. And unfortunately, the brother did not ditch the gun. And Tandy, Rayna's sister, realizes that Teddy is still with Peggy, as does Maddie, their daughter, and she overhears their dad having a phone conversation with Peggy. And finally, Rayna comes home, and they have to break the news about the divorce, and the girls are so devastated. And Maddie is honest and is like, Mom, you know, Dad's been seeing Peggy behind your back. In this next episode, Scarlett has a brilliant cupcake hack, but I did not take good enough notes where I wrote it down. So if anybody knows episode 14 really well, let me know. Because I want to know the cupcake hack, even though I don't really make cupcakes myself. So Deacon Clybourne, he has a ritual for his birthday. He always watches the classic tearjerker Old Yeller. Not my birthday movie of choice, but I fits the character. And Juliette is going to interrupt his kind of traditions because she's setting up a surprise party for him. And invites all his friends and all these music legends, and she's like, hey, Scarlett, you want to be my opening act? Because you just have to trick your uncle into showing up at the Bluebird. What a beautiful, like, hell yeah, take that publicity, take that. So Rayna comes clean to Teddy that she's like, I know about Peggy. And she's also like, you need to keep your new girlfriend away from the kids. I'm so stressed about their finances. I'm like, how is that being split up? Like, they're rich and he is an embezzler, and I really wish she was letting her girls have conversations about money early up for this, like, when this first episode started. And again, sorry that these reviews are like, now it's over an hour. We have to get to, like, I think 21 or 22 episodes, so hang in there, guys. But hopefully you're enjoying it and it's entertaining enough. And if you're not, let me know how I can do better in the comments. Anyway, so Rayna wants to keep the news quiet, but she's just famous, you know? There's a tabloid story, and Rayna, like, doesn't want the girls to see it. Like, that really does kind of suck, is, like, these, like, young girls kind of being all around the, like, fame, and, like, you're getting stories on, and there's all of that. Like, that would just be so challenging. I would not how to know how to deal with that. And her sister Tandy buys up all the gossip rags, which also sucks. Like, you have to give the money to this company that's exploiting you. And a crisis consultant is like, hey, I don't think you should come to Deacon's surprise party. But Rayna's like, you know what? I think that is right. Like, I have to lay low. But it's really tough because there's paparazzi outside her girl's ballet class trying to just, like, get a picture of her. Like, she can't even spend time with her family. Like, there are dark sides to fame. And Rayna's dad comes to her and is like, you know, don't walk down the street, like, not proud of who you are, which is actually pretty sweet for Lamar, one of my least favorite characters. And but he was there for Teddy to go see, and he is really upset with the way that he has treated Rayna after he has helped him become mayor. And he emphasizes like a particular candidate for the job of deputy mayor, and Teddy's like, I don't know, I'll think about it. But he stands up to Lamar, which, you know, Lamar's not gonna like that. And Teddy is trying to figure out like a way to get like around the issues of being seen with Peggy, because he makes her his like financial consultant, so they can embezzle more together. Oh, true love, embezzling. That's not a record that was on the show, but it's chill. It's chill. Also, I'll say there are some songs listed in the episodes of season 1 that I don't remember, and I feel like they're not even on tracks that you can listen to. But maybe I'm just silly. So Teddy does kind of do, I think, a right thing here, where he asks Coleman to be his deputy mayor because he wants them to join forces against Lamar. Then Scarlett is like scrubbing the floor, seeking inspiration for a song. Not where I would go, but I trust her. And she's like asking if his brother has any clothes that need washing. And Gunnar then, in finding, like, trying to get the clothes for the wash, finds Jason's gun. And he is livid. He tosses the gun into the lake and tells his brother that, you know what, from like here on out, you're out, like, I'm done. And Avery doesn't really like the changes that his producer's been making to the music. I'm honestly so bored with the Avery story, but in case you're here, you know, he has his arc, but I don't like him in season 1 at all. And he is just like, he doesn't like that somebody's changing his sound. He can't really hear like him in it. It's not becoming his music. And should is not the right word in music business, is what he's advised. And Juliet's addiction counselor, Dante, lets Juliet know that he only got through his personal issues when his family had been supportive. And this doesn't really register with Juliet because she's rehearsing her new song, We Are Water, which I do remember. And actually, I really did like the song. And she's also soaking in that, like, Rayna's getting a divorce because I think she sees Rayna as so odd school. And she's also kind of excited because it's like Rayna will probably be no show at the party. So Deacon is so shocked. Some of the biggest names in music are there, including Dane Auerbach, I don't know, Vincent Gill, Pam Tillis, Kip Moore, and Kate York. Never heard of them, but maybe you have, and maybe they're made up. I don't know. Everyone is having a great time. They sing I Will Fall, Scarlett and Gunnar. Avery is not on the guest list, so he's just creeping outside on the window. But Rayna actually does make a splash and comes in with Waddy White, and she braves the crowd of paparazzi. And this is a big surprise to Deacon, but I think really means a lot. And I'm actually glad she went to party. I think when you have a divorce, you need it. And Gunnar has to step away from the festivities because the police ask him to come, and he misses Deacon's birthday speech, where everyone drinks, including Juliet's mom. And Juliet has to give up singing at Deacon's party because now she has to take care of her mom, who has just slipped up. Rayna then goes to the stage and sings Stronger Than Me, which is, like, so potent and, like, one of my favorite songs ever in the show. Like, as somebody who had alcoholic parents, like, this song is so good, and it's so heartbreakingly sad. I can't believe she's singing it on the birthday. And it's really rough. And Rayna has a heart-to-heart with Deacon. She's like, you know, I really want to do right by you. And then she leaves him alone. And Deacon has companionship because Juliet has a birthday present for him, and it's a dog, and it looks like Old Yeller. And there's this one, like, because I look at some like summary sometimes for like assistants to piece together my notes, because I'm usually writing and watching. There's probably a better note take system, but I like to keep it active like that. And this one thing is like, this little guy is sure to be the best gong dog in Nashville. And I'm like, I can't. But I remember the dog being pretty cute. We stan a dog actor. You know what I mean? We stan a dog actor. So Juliet's mom apologizes about ruining like her party, but she's actually apologizing for a party that she ruined when Juliette was 9. And Juliette talks about, like, you know, her mom canceled their birthday bash because she wanted to use the money, like Juliette's birthday money, to get wasted. And Juliette was like, yeah, I wished my mom had died. And she really asked Dante if he can, like, truly help him. And he believes that he can. And Gunnar learns that the cops came for him so he could identify his body. It's his brother. Like, oh no, poor Gunnar. I feel so bad. So Jason was beaten to death in an alley, and Gunnar is just devastated, blames himself for what happened. And Scarlett's like, it's not your fault. And she holds him tight, and then she kisses him, which is so... It's just a very beautiful moment. Yay, my ship is happening. It's not gonna last for long, so fuck me. But, you know, I'm excited about it. So Maddie is devastated by her parents' divorce. Rayna is also just having trouble adjusting, but as difficult as it is, she takes off her wedding ring. I'm not a person where wedding rings are a very big deal to me, but I get the sentiment. And Juliette is upset because she learns there's no social media plan for her next release, and she wants to modernize her PR. So she sends out an invitation for a few hundred fans to come hear her sing at what was supposed to be an intimate event. Coleman is the deputy mayor, which makes Lamar so upset. And he is also mad to learn that a new city stadium will not be built on his land. And Teddy then gets a call from Maddie, who lies to him because she wants to sneak off to see Juliette Barnes sing at the event that she had tweeted about. The crowd is so big for such a small venue, so things get out of hand fast. Fixtures topple over, and they injure half a dozen fans. And Deacon jumps off a stage when she realizes that, like, Maddie is one of the ones who is hurt, which is just, you know, the old studio saying, hey, guys, like, listen to your parents and don't try to sneak off because you will get hit in the head and be hospitalized. And it's not good. Listen to your parents. So that's the takeaway. So Gunnar is still grieving, and he's like, oh, like, the fact that we slept together so long doesn't have to mean anything, and I hate him for that, and he makes me really, really upset that he does this because he ruins the ship. I think had he reacted more positively in this moment, him and Scarlett could have been a thing, but he really just ruined it. And I get it. Like, he's very upset because the police are not working very hard to solve his brother's murder because he is a bad guy. And it looks like to them that Jason was involved in a drug deal that went bad. And Gunnar blows off an audition that Rayna set up with Marshall. But Scarlett took her banjo just in case, kind of knowing that he wasn't going to show up. And she was pretty reluctant to perform alone. But she had no choice, so she did it, and she's great. Marshall is really impressed, and Rayna is also really pleased, but then realizes that Maddie's in the hospital and leaves. Thankfully, Maddie's okay. Juliette is really mad at her assistant, and she's also still having issues with her mom, obviously, and her counselor, Dante. And she denies that she ignored her mom, Jolene, on the occasion of her first costume, or her first concert, rather. And Rayna chastises Juliette for her role in what happened to Maddie, which is, like, she's, like, a little bit responsible, but I think Rayna's a little out of bounds and is just taking out of her anger. And Rayna's like, you need to take responsibility for your actions instead of trying to blame everyone else. And Juliette realizes and is like, okay, and she apologizes to her mom for ignoring her years ago. And she goes and pays all the medical bills of all the people that got hurt in her show, which is honestly, that is very nice. Like, I don't know a lot of singers, like, obviously this is made up, but I don't know a lot of people that would do that, you know? And I don't know. I like Juliette. She's rough sometimes. But She always comes around and does the right thing. I think she kind of fades she's really good the first couple of seasons, and then the last couple of seasons her character is meh, but we'll get into that as I go through the seasons. So Deacon feels like his dog is defective, but he is starting to fall for this pretty vet named Stacy, who was like, his pooch is fine, and she's like shocked that he hasn't named the dog yet, and she's not a fan of country music and hates it, but likes Deacon, so they sleep together almost immediately, and she's like, oh, this is a one-time thing, and because Deacon has to like skedaddle for Juliette, and she's like, you should name your dog, which I think also sometimes names come in, because you have to like get used to it. But a dog also does need a name to, like, learn it, especially when they're young. So Coleman advises Deacon that, like, you gotta stop trying to make yourself so available for Rayna. Like, go on a date with the vet. And Scarlett comes home to see that Gunnar has just been drinking a bunch. She's worried that he's, like, looking for vengeance. So she gets Deacon, and they arrive as Gunnar is about to head to this, like, seedy bar. And Deacon knows, like, the kind of pain that he's in. Duncan, like a Dunkin' Donut. I don't even know what I'm doing, guys. But anyway, he's like, please don't go to this dark place after, like, the same thing that happened to him when he made his, like, best friend Vince drunk drive. And by holding on to his pain, Deacon had lost the one woman he ever loved. And he's like, Gunnar, if you want to hold on to something, you need to hold on to Scarlett. And Gunnar really takes this in, and he lets Scarlett know that, you know, like, actually sleeping with her wasn't a mistake. And Scarlett ends up getting a award that she's being offered a deal as a solo artist, which is, I think, hard for poor people pleaser Scarlett. And then Avery is not happy because Dominic wants his music to be like Nashville meets dubstep, which not for me, baby. And he is like, it doesn't really matter if you don't like it, the new sound is staying. And he swipes mixes of his new tunes and burns all the master recordings. Very dramatic, very Phantom of the Opera to me. And he returns to the car Dominic gave him and the money advanced to him, which was like $75,000, but only minus the ticket of a bus back to Nashville, which is also wild. And he says goodbye to Maryland too. And he's like, I'm going to blacken your name in the music business, Dominic. But Avery's like, I don't care. And he performs a song at the piano his way. And he makes no fuss after being announced under a slightly different name than the one that we know him by. And Rayna believes that her girls are in good hands with Teddy, which is a lot. And she has a heart-to-heart with Maddie. And they just kind of get back to, like, their normal. And she gives Maddie the first guitar she had ever tried to play that was given to her by her mother in hopes that it will help Maddie get through, like, what she's going through. And then Rayna goes on Katie Couric's talk show where they chat about the tour and her breakup. And Deacon asks vet Stacy out on a real date and named his male dog Sue, a dog named Sue, because she doesn't get it, because it's a country music joke. Also, there was such a product placement of Subway at the park, which was very funny. And also on the Juliette's mom, who was struggling with alcoholism, and Juliette was like, you were making up your memory because you were drunk, but it was true. And also because she is a week sober, Juliette invites her on tour. So Rayna is really excited because her girls are coming along to her trip to New York. Maddie is dreaming of being a performer, like, of course, like mother, like daughter. And also Maddie's like dead. She's got two likelihoods of being a performer. Like, it's really very much in her DNA. But Rayna really doesn't want Maddie to have a showbiz life. And Maddie is just, like, blown away by Rayna as she's, like, singing on her stage and, like, driving the crowd wild. Daphne wants to sing too. And Tandy is like, you know, Rayna, you don't sound like you're supporting the dreams of your kids. Like, you're kind of being like our dad, because he did the same thing to you when you were younger. And she's like, okay, well, let me try to explain to the girls why I'm really, like, hesitating. It doesn't mean that I don't support. It's just like there's a lot of things that I'm sure when she first joined that like she didn't consider. And she ends up letting Daphne and Maddie take the stage to perform a song that they've been working on for the concert soundcheck. It's a very sweet moment. And the girls just like really bring joy to anybody who's like listening. They're natural performers just like their mom. And Rayna's really mad at Tandy because she's like, why did you compare me to my dad? Like, I don't like that. Like, I don't want to be anything like him. And Tandy's like, I'm just trying to get your attention. I know you used to think Lamar could do no wrong, and you were such a daddy's girl. But that was a long time ago. And Juliette is trying to be very zen and not get upset about things she can't change, like a 50-foot billboard of Rayna Jaymes outside her hotel. And Juliette wants to land a big-time sponsor, and Dante coaches her to, like, get Marshall to set her up with a major cell phone company. And she wants Dante to come with her, but that means that he has to blow off therapy with Jolene, which is what he was hired to do. So I don't love that. I don't love that. And things are still like getting serious with Stacy the vet, even though they've been dating a short time. He's like, hey, come to New York with me. And Rayna is really surprised because the lady introduces herself as Deacon's girlfriend. And Stacy clearly sees that Deacon has a past with Rayna, and she's kind of like, huh, I wonder if things are like really over here, like, because I can understand, because Rayna's like beautiful and like very hard, and Deacon's like, oh no, it's all history. And he's like, I don't know, I think life on the road might even be history too. He's like, I think it might be just time to like hang up my guitar and settle down in Nashville. The road is no place for a dog named Sue. And then I'm assuming that Nashville got renewed for another season, so they were like, oh, we should probably introduce new characters. So they meet their upstairs neighbor, Will, who you'll find out a little bit more about him, but he's a gay cowboy, and I like the concept of him. I don't think they nail his character overall the times, but you know what, we'll take the representation. We'll take it. So he's a musician, and their mail got mixed up. So this is how Gunnar finds out about the record deal, because Scarlett literally kept it from him for like a month. So he finds out via mail, which is not ideal. And Gunnar is just like very upset because she's like, you didn't tell me, you know. And Scarlett's like, I was trying to persuade them to conclude you, but Gunner's like, this is really odd. Like, this is a really weird way to include me. And Will is very like, well, how come, like, you didn't get a contract? And Gunner's like, I just didn't handle my brother's death well. And he wishes that he let Scarlett postpone their audition. But Scarlett's like, okay, Gunnar, I won't sign the deal. And Gunner's like, no, Scarlett, you should shine it. I'm not jealous of you like Avery is. Like, I'm really proud of your success, and I'm really excited about it, and I love you. And they kiss, and I'm glad they came over that hurdle. I was a bit nervous. Because male ego, you know how it is. And Avery's feeling the repercussions of burning his masters. And it's like he either has to get a new record deal or pay back his advance. And that's a bit difficult because he's like not a famous person. So, they, you know, they're working on, like, blacking out his name. They put out, like, word that clubs will not get business if anybody hires Avery. So he takes to busking in the streets, and, he gets a roadie gig, and he's off to New York to join the tour. And then Peggy goes to Teddy's place wearing the overcoat, nothing underneath. It's so nice. Subtle she is not, as one summary said, which is very funny. And Lamar goes to Coleman and is like, please persuade Teddy to use his land for the new stadium deal. But Coleman's like, nope, like, maybe you shouldn't have burned me. And then Lamar tells Peggy that it's like, you need to pursue then the stadium deal. Like, it's in your best interest, because I know you as an embezzler. Sorry for that accent. That was real sad. And he also knows that Peggy was the one who leaked the divorce to the tabloids. So Peggy is like, all right. So she's like, all right, Teddy, like, come on, you should do this. Like, Lamar could help you become governor. Men love power, you know what I mean? Love power. So Lamar's like rejoicing. He's like, all right, I'm doing the shady politics, and then unfortunately has a heart attack. So of course Rayna has to leave the show because her dad is having a medical emergency. And Tandy is talking business with this guy, Albert, who wants to get her up to date as a CFO before she goes to her father, as Lamar is now going to have to take like medical leave. And he's trying to do business from his hospital bed, which is, you can't do it. And he gets all mad when he sees Waddy in the hospital hallway because, as you know, that was like kind of the guy that stole Rayna's mom from them. And Rayna's like super confused, but later learns that that's the reason why he was all mad, that Waddy was the other man in her mother's life. And that's, even though that's not why he helped Rayna, because he'd recognized her talent. Like, it was a combo deal. It was the familiarity of like her being like her mother, and her also just being talented. And her mom had died because she had crashed her car back when Rayna was 12. Her mom was going to leave Lamar, but Lamar never said anything about her mother's affair. Nobody really did because everyone idolized her. But her love for Waddy is why Lamar is so angry back when Rayna was 16, and why Waddy kind of got her first paying gig and she was kicked out of her home. So Juliette and Dante have become intimate. They like kissed and, hooked up, which is, I don't love it. I don't love it. It's shady. It violates things. I don't love it. But they are gonna keep it a secret, especially from the mom, but they are gonna flaunt their business relationship. They're expanding Juliette's show by 10 additional songs to make up for Rayna missing, and he isn't going anywhere, even though Jolene is like, can we just please go back to Nashville? And Avery begins his life as a roadie, and he sees Juliette and Dante in a compromising position, and then Dante's like, hey, Avery, you're fired because you saw what you weren't supposed to. Things are moving fast again with Stacy and Deacon, the vet, and he gives her a place, like a key to the place, not a physical place, that you'll find out he gave to Rayna, but that's another season. So anyway, he's like, hey, like, make yourself at home while I'm out on the road. And Deacon then also leaves a message to Rayna and is like, hey, you're in my thoughts. And Deacon lets Juliette know that, hey, you're planning to expand your shows. It's really not fair to your band and your crew. And he's starting to realize how much influence Dante is having on her. And he puts Avery back on the job. And he's like, stay away from this from here on out. And he is really scared and like shocked that Juliette shared the intimate details of his past with Dante, and he like is just really not trusting this guy. And then Juliette sees her mom trying to kiss Dante, which leads to this big blow up, and Jolene then realizes that, oh wow, like they're sleeping together, and Deacon is just like trying to ignore Juliette because he's like hurt by the fact that she's like shared all this information. Really, when it's like Dante's fault, like he's clearly like blurring a lot of lines. I've never had a sober coach or know anybody who has, so I don't know all the rules, but definitely I don't think you're supposed to hook up. That seems like really compromising. So lots of shouting. Juliette is like, you just should have canceled the show. And that's just something you do when there's a family emergency. And Juliette's, Rayna's not my family, and it's not, and she's not even your family, Deacon. And Deacon is just like, wow, Juliette, like, Rayna is family to me. And Juliette then makes Dante her manager, which is like, what? He has no management experience. He's a sober coach. Like, what is happening? This literally doesn't make sense. And she sends her mom home without him. And Emily's goal is to find Juliette's mom a female sober companion. Lamar has another heart attack, but the bypass surgery goes well. He's still not out of the woods, though, and Rayna is, like, staying by his bedside. And Deacon comes over and, like, gives her a hug. And he's like, you know, your voicemail message made it sounded like she needed him. And they talk about, like, when she left home. And he's like, you weren't kicked out at 16. And it's like, you'd been given a choice. Lamar had said you could stay if you abided by his rules. And she was like, well, yeah, but that was never going to happen. And Deacon says this reluctant goodbye and then goes to see Stacy. And the hug that he gives Stacy doesn't seem as meaningful as the one that he gave Rayna, who is, like, opening up to her unconscious dad that, you know, like, they missed a lot of their life together because he was so angry at her mom. And Gunnar is celebrating Scarlett's success, and Will comes along. I think he's, like, 1900 girls numbers. Like, I love, what did they say? We love a gay man, you know what I mean? Like, but it's such a high number. Like, it was, like, insanely, I was like, oh dang, you know. Oh, it was like 1000, yeah, 1900, which is just like, yeah, yikes. I don't love it. Like, but, you know, it doesn't matter to him. Like, to him it's just a game. So he gets Scarlett to come on stage with Will for a duet, and Gunnar's just, like, not feeling music at the moment. And Will is like, okay, you want to get over death? Like, let's tempt it. So he plays this heroin game of chicken with a train, and I hate it. It's so nerve-wracking. It is so scary. It's something that I remember about Will's character, though, whenever I think about him. It's this moment of him in the train, and Gunnar is just, like, so freaked out, but they survive, and he's really angry, but then he likes the rush, and he's like, it starts getting him to play music again. And Scarlett is just feeling really overwhelmed by the reception that she's getting at Edge Hill Records. And Peggy is trying to keep her distance with Teddy because the situation with Lamar has to stabilize. But she calls him, and she sounded a little unstable when she was with the girls. And she's like, you know, Teddy, like, I really love you. And then Tandy discovers that Peggy has been making a lot of phone calls with Lamar. And she gives Teddy, like, records to be like, hey, I think your girlfriend was the one who leaked the divorce about Rayna, which, like, caused a lot of problems with their children. So deal with your whore, essentially. Not that Peggy is necessary. I mean, she kind of acted in hoe-like behavior, but it was complicated. It's not like Rayna also wasn't, and they were just not right for each other. So Rayna finishes her album with Liam, and they're still making out, and she's like, the fact that I got to second base, does that make her slutty? And she's like, nah, especially that, like, Teddy went all the way, so call him a slut. And Liam wants Rayna to go to St. Lucia with him, and Deacon wants to go back and live in the real world. And Stacy is really awesome to hear this, but then she sees Deacon look at Rayna as she performs with Liam on stage. And he's like, yeah, I still have feelings for Rayna. And Stacy's upset about that, rightly so. And Rayna's like, Deacon, just, like, go make things right with her. But surprise, surprise, right? She then is up at his doorstep, and she's like, you're right. Like, I love you. And I've loved you my whole life. And Deacon is shocked. And he's like, are you trying to kill me? And she's like, listen, I love you, and you should know that I love you, and you can do what he wants with that information. And she leaves, and he's swearing, and then she comes back, and he kisses her and pulls her inside, and they undress each other, and then, you know, do the woohoo, you know, as they say on The Sims, old Sims. And I'm for it. I'm shipping Rayna and Deacon, even though they have toxicity in them. And so Juliette Barnes is trying to find like the right person to share her big moment of buying a house, and she thinks that guy is Dante. He's calling all the shots for her. He's setting up the real estate deal, and he wants Deacon to resign as the band leader. And Jolene, Juliette's mom, is also like, listen, like, I don't think you should trust Dante. He has kissed another woman. And Juliette's not even worried about Deacon. She's like, says that he's like replaceable. And the person that Dante is accused of kissing is a realtor who was making the house deal. And Juliette goes and checks off this woman. And the realtor lady is this like shy, mousy woman who was in debt to Dante for saving her life during some dark times. And she's like, he isn't dorky enough for like anything more than a friendship. And Juliette is satisfied, so she buys the house. And Juliette's mom is like, I promise that they were kissing. And Juliette is like, I don't think so. And then Dante finds a pills in Juliette's bag and Jolene's bag, and that is not good, obviously, because she's supposed to be sober, right? So she's very upset, and Jolene is denying that the drugs belong to her, but fortunately, Juliette eventually realizes that her mom is telling the truth, because she's allergic to these meds. Like, if she had taken them, she'd be dead. And then Juliette learns also that Dante took off with a significant chunk of her walking around money, nearly $500,000. Like, way to be so scammed. It's really bad. That's missing from her corporate account. She's been scammed. And she still wants to buy the house as a reminder that she can't trust anybody. And Dante is on the plane with the realtor woman, and she is not as shy as mousy as she did before. And Dante's cell phone rings, but it's Juliette, so he just puts the phone inside a newspaper and puts it in the trash. Like, what? I mean, I guess if you have $500,000, not worry about getting a new phone, but yeah. So we've got another Subway sponsorship. Teddy's making a deal with Subway with the new stadium, and he learns that Peggy was the one who leaked the divorce news, and he's mad of learning about Lamar's blackmail efforts, and he kicks Peggy out of the office. And he stops any side deals with Lamar had for the stadium, which does upset Coleman, as some of those contracts were set up to like help him and were like going to help people in disadvantaged areas. And Lamar is coming home from the hospital, and he proves to Rayna that he's like always followed her career, like has been supportive, and he really wants a fresh start with her. And Rayna's like, I want that too. And Lamar is really mad that Rayna told about Peggy. And Tandy is like shocked that her father feels that Rayna was like the only one there for him for his heart attack. So she's like, all right, fuck this, Dad. Like, I'm over it. I'm going to Coleman. And her sister is like, you should look at Teddy's past. And if you do, you might find some ammunition that might come in handy for the future. And she mentions the Cumberland deal, which is all about like the embezzlement. And Gunnar is really impressed with the swagger that Will has on stage. Ladies love him, and Will reveals like the secret. And Gunnar's like, all right, sure, I'm going to try it out. And it's a totally different sound for him, but the crowd loves it. And like a girl gives him her phone number, and he gets an offer to lay down a demo. And he says that he wrote the new tune, but truthfully, it's something he found in his brother's journal. And Avery even likes the song, and he apologizes for his past behavior. And he's like, hey, can you just give my best to Scarlett? And Scarlett has convinced Rayna to give Gunnar a second chance. And it's not really going to work because Gunnar is figuring out the music that he wants to do, and it really is something that he needs to do alone. And Scarlett understands, and so she reconnects with Avery, and she is starting to see like the signs of the guy that she used to love now that he's working as a roadie. And Gunnar is like hey, this is why I haven't talked about Jason. Like, I'm just really scared I'm going to return to a dark place. And he's like, I don't really want anything to change. And then Will kisses him. And Gunnar, of course, freaks out because heteronormative Southern man, like, it's not good. And then poor, humiliated Will runs out of the apartment. And that's how that episode ends. Poor Will. I feel really bad. I don't love Gun for a Mouth, but I'm sure that it's for people. There's probably a fan base for it. It's kind of like, I remember when like Kurt, I can't remember the artist that he was doing, but Kurt from Glee like sings that like tough guy song, and that is exactly what this reminds me of. So bad news is Juliette isn't pursuing Dante because she doesn't want to wreck her reputation, but both Juliette and Rayna have been nominated for a CMA Country Music Artist Award for Female Vocalist of the Year, and they are invited to a celebration party on a riverboat. Sounds like a really good time. Juliette is getting votes by sending bobbleheads of herself to every member of the Country Music Association, and she wants to give them all champagne too, and has also been drowning a lot of mimosas. She really doesn't want the police involved with Dante, even though he scammed her out of $500,000, like so much money, oh my gosh, because she really wants to protect her reputation, and she tells her mom, like, you were right. And Deacon accuses Rayna of stealing all the covers as she wakes up, but what now with them? And Coleman gives kind of a tough love speech to Deacon. They both end up agreeing that, you know what, we're going to take things slow, but they're like stealing kisses. And Rayna is really the one who wants to take it slow. Deacon is like just ready to jump on board. He breaks up with Stacy and he leaves her the dog named Sue, which Deacon like just pass off present. I guess he's like, we're going to be touring all the time if I'm with Rayna, and is absolutely obsessed with this woman. But I mean, if you've seen Rayna, you get it. You understand. She's kind of an incredible person. And the vet at least keeps the dog, so there's that, but super weird. I guess they were like, we can't afford to keep this dog actor around. Anyway, Gunnar is ignoring Will, super homophobic, and he doesn't want to let Scarlett hear the song because the producer that he met isn't really interested in ballads, so he's trying to sell himself as like the bad boy that his brother was, and unfortunately, his recording session is the same night as the Edgeville nominee party. So Will is Scarlett's date for the event, and he helps her network. And he also is like, hey, Rayna, you should listen to my demo. Maddie doesn't want to go to the father-daughter dance with her dad, but Teddy is like eventually convincing her because they need some healing time together. And when Teddy learns about Deacon, he is just really worried about the truth coming out about the fact that Teddy is not Maddie's biological father. And he's like, you need to honor the promise, Rayna, that we made when Maddie was born. And they ended up having a great time together at the father-daughter dance, so that's good. Julia is continuing to drink very heavily before the nomination party. She learns that Dante has used some of her money to buy a $17,000 engagement ring. Don't ever buy me a ring that much. I would lose it. Like, it's too much money. Rayna can smell the alcohol in Juliette as they're posing for pictures, and Marshall's also noticing how tipsy his star is lately. And Rayna is having intense conversation with Deacon as they're trying to figure out their new relationship, but an intoxicated Juliette interrupts, and Deacon is just mad, and he gets away from Rayna and quits Juliette's band. He's super mature. We're going to hate Deacon for the next couple of episodes, and that's just, I also feel bad because I've been calling Deacon and, like, some people just summarizing them as, like, addicts, and, like, obviously you're more than an addiction, and I just wanted to say that. Obviously, these videos are very long, and I'm not always the best at speaking. That's why I'm practicing here. So, yeah, that's what we had to do. And explain. Anyway, so now Juliette needs a new guitar player. And Avery's like, hey, I'll do it. And Juliette sings this tune called Used, which is very fitting in her current situation. And Scarlett is like pretty shocked to see Avery up on stage. And Juliette is like, hey, you weren't actually half bad. And she kisses him on stage and then tries to take him home at night. But Avery's like, oh, this is not a good idea. And then Jolene is kind of like nursing her hammer daughter back to sobriety. And then Dante calls and she's like, oh, I have bad news because Dante called and is talking about a tape, which is doesn't sound so good. And Scarlett then learns that Gunnar has been using his brother's songs as his own, and Coleman lets Tanny know that like he's not being interested in anyone's pawn, and he resigns from his post as deputy mayor, which I think was the best decision. I agree with his wife. I don't care how ticked off Teddy is, like they were using him and he should keep his own reputation clean and get out of this whole like embezzlement, awful elitist stuff. And Deacon is like, Rayna, I don't know what you're hiding from me, but you know what? It doesn't matter. All that matters is that we love each other. And Rayna is like, you're right. Like, I do. I love you so much. And they kiss. So Rayna is trying to find her acts for her new label. She's got Scarlett, but she needs at least one more. But luckily, Will crashes a secret audition session because he wants to be heard. He drops Scarlett's name, and then Rayna's like, all right, I'll listen. And he impresses them big time. And she's like, please, Will, can you just talk some sense into my boyfriend? Because the bad boy image that he's developing is just like, I don't like it. Like, I don't want it. And when she hears Gunnar fake his way through a radio interview, she's like, okay, I'm done. But he'll be in the audience for her debut at the Grand Ole Opry, so maybe he will see her and kind of realize who he was, but it's not going good. Gunnar's obviously, like, freaking out with his brother's death. So Juliette asks Avery to help her with some lyrics. He's like, hey, what about love songs? And she's like, I don't believe in love. It doesn't exist. And he's like, yes, it does. I've been in love. And we find out that Dante is threatening like a sex video that could severely damage Juliette's career. But he won't do it if she gives him $2 million. And she's like, okay, whatever, I'll do it. But Dante never shows up for the drop. And then he's like, actually, I'm going to up my price to $10 million. And Juliette is just infuriated, blames her mom for what's happening. And it's pretty obvious that Juliette's mom blames herself too. And she meets up with her one dealer to get some drugs and then also something else, which is a gun. I hate the storyline that's about to play out. I just want to say, like, I hate it so much. I wish it didn't happen. And it's not anything else but this, please. Thank you. No, thank you. I hate it. So Juliette learns that Rayna and Deacon are together, and she is like complaining about the jokes that have been written for her. She's making snide remarks to Glenn, who tries to introduce his new client, Sonny McKenzie. Kind of wonder, at one point Brad Paisley makes a cameo in this, which is very funny to me. I love Brad Paisley. So that was pretty cool, but I don't know if it's in this episode, but I wonder if it's that guy, because I didn't write his name down because I'm terrible with names when they're in TV shows. But like, I don't even think I knew like Coleman's name until I looked up some like synopsis notes. But anyway, Rayna lectures Juliette of like, listen, you have to earn respect. It's like, even if she wins a CMA award, it doesn't mean that you've earned it. And Juliette is like, you know what, I'm not giving him the money, and whatever with the tape, like, it'll be what it is. And then Gunnar wows this crowd with his set at a dive club, but when Will goes to have a chat with him, this bar regular interrupts, and he's like, oh, are you as tough as your music suggests? So he's like, where did you do your time? And Gunnar's like, it's none of your business. And the guy's like, you know what, Gunnar, you're a poser. And Will then like insults the guy's drinking habits, which leads to a big old brawl where everyone is arrested. And then Gunnar is actually in jail. And he should have just been like, instead of like pretending to be in prison, like just said, hey, I'm just actually doing this in honor of my brother. Like, it's like a gimmick. And, you know, like that, it's supposed to just honor his legacy. But Anyway, so she tries to contact Gunnar by phone to bring him backstage, not knowing that he's literally in prison. And she ends up getting this box gift, and it's a whisk, and it was from Avery. And it's from when he like handed her a whisk to sing a while back when he was nervous and like learning how to sing from her nerves. So it's very sweet. So Scarlett crushes it at the Grand Ole Opry, and Avery is just like really happy for her, which is nice. This is a very beautiful moment between them, and she gets a standing ovation, and Scarlett is super overwhelmed, but Gunnar and Will are still in prison, so she doesn't even know the half of her overwhelm, and they apologize to each other. Will opens up about his past, and they both want to become stars. Scarlett bails them out. Will is like, I'll pay her back, and for Gunnar, Scarlett's like, listen, I cannot be around with you, like, while you're doing this bad boy thing. Like, I fell in love with you, not your brother. And so she kicks him out. So now Gunnar's going to go live with Will. So Tandy is moving forward with taking over, like, the family business, being girl boss, slaying. So she's trying to stage a coup. But Lamar shows up and is like, get out of the seat. It's Succession before it was Succession. Country music Succession, even though they're not really in music. It's like country politics. So then Jolene takes a number from Juliette's phone, and she's like, hey, my daughter's not going to pay the $10 million, but she has the original $2 million, and she'll exchange it for the SD card with the video. And Dante's like, oh, okay, whatever, like $2 million, sure. Like, maybe I was being too much with $10 million, I guess. So he beats up with Jolene. He's been using, and she pulls out the gun. She aims it at Dante. He makes a move towards her. She shoots him, and then she calls her daughter to tell her that she loves her, drops the SD card into a garbage disposal, destroys it, and Juliet is like, oh God, something is really wrong, and she cancels the video. And then Juliet comes in to find Dante dead on the floor from being shot, and then she sees that Juliet, like, I'm mixing their names. I hate this thing so much, so I'm just trying to get through it because I'm so mad. But so then Jolene is dead from drugs, and Juliet is devastated, and it's awful. I hate everything about it. I hate that it was like Jolene's only thing was to commit suicide by an overdose. I mean, I guess killing somebody is bad, but I kind of just wish that they just let her go to prison for her daughter, and then that, I think, would have been a better story thing. I mean, obviously Juliet's mom is very, like, unstable in a lot of ways, so it makes sense about the way that she interacted, but it's just like, I hate it. I hate the way it was handled. Anyway, Teddy is really upset and is like, doesn't want Deacon anywhere near his girls because he's like, kind of like, there's a double standard of like, Peggy was not allowed, but Deacon is. And he's like, I might even file restraining orders against him because this is just like, I don't like this. And he's like, I'm gonna do it to you, Rayna, just to keep Deacon at bay. But we can still see each other and talk on the phone. And Maddie overhears that Rayna is saying I love you to someone. And Rayna fesses up to Maddie that she and Deacon are seeing each other. And Maddie knows that her mom and Deacon used to date before she married Teddy. And she's like, is that why her, like, dad was, like, so angry at Deacon for being over for dinner? And Rayna's like, yeah, that's part of it. And I will explain the rest to you when you're older. So Rayna then goes to her dad, Lamar, to help with the restraining order. And Lamar is like, okay, yeah, I'll get you a private hearing by a judge the next day. And he's like, listen, they're trying to, like, deny the girls access to their uncle Deacon. And Teddy's like, Deacon isn't really their uncle, and he is an alcoholic. And Rayna's like, Deacon has been sober for 13 years. And Teddy's like, I have photographic evidence to the contrary. And the judge is like, okay, we have to have another more thorough hearing in 2 weeks. And Rayna's like, knows that Teddy is really afraid that he's going to lose Maddie. And she's like, listen, I'm never going to do anything to hurt that relationship. However, she can't keep that vow because Maddie went through some documents in her mom's wardrobe, and she sees the paternity test and realizes that Teddy is not her real father. And this is, yeah, it's not great. You know what I mean? Like, I feel many things also having not known my father, and at first I was going to be lied to about my father, and then I was told the truth. Like, it is really jarring to not know who your dad is. So Dante obviously was not a good sober companion, and she gets asked by the police if there was a romantic relationship between him and her mother, and she's like, I didn't know of one, but I wouldn't put it past him. And Rayna is like, yeah, it's really tragic to lose your mother. And Maddie goes, our father. And she's like, hey, by the way, Uncle Deacon is going to be my date to the CMAs. And the girls really like Deacon. And it's confirmed that they're dating. And Maddie's like, oh, yeah, you used to date before you got married. I think very much like trying to be like, just tell me, like, because it's about to explode in a very bad way. So Gunnar goes to see Jack Nelson, who shows him a police photo he's found and is like, hey, this will be great publicity. And Gunnar's like, you know what? This is not me. The songs are my brother's. And Jack's like, whatever. So you stole them. That's outlaw. But Gunnar's like, I want to quit for Scarlett. So we see Will has a girl by the table, but he goes to talk to Scarlett and says, thanks for bailing us out. And she's like, I felt obligated to because I asked you to talk to Gunnar for me. And Will leaves when Avery shows up, and it seems like they wanted to talk because she wanted to thank him for the whisk. And he's like, yeah, I would have brought it myself, except that he was like, I didn't want Gunnar to take it the wrong way. And he was like, yeah, he wouldn't have because he wasn't there. And Avery just is like, you know what, Scarlett, like, you did a good job. Like, you were so good, and invites her to a show. So it seems like there may be rekindling, which I kind of like it. Like, I think they've definitely learned from their mistakes. And obviously, like, I was really mad at Gunnar at this time because it's not all right. Juliette is 100% grieving, but she doesn't want to stop performing, but she is going to take a little bit of a break. And I think that the break is very necessary. I think sometimes when I went into grief, I wanted to do like so many things to try to distract from it. But I think had I just like spent some time to deal with it, I would have healed more. But it is a lot, So Juliette is not doing great, clearly. And she's like, Deacon, I'm just really pissed at you because you kept trying to help somebody who couldn't be helped. And she's just like, you need to leave, like, because I'm going to win Female Vocalist of the Year. And then Teddy gets a call from a U.S. Attorney's Office who wants to make an appointment to talk about the loan for the Cumberland Plaza deal because he was on board of the Music City Credit Union. And Teddy's like, okay, cool. And then Maddie visits Deacon and tells him that, like, hey, I think you might be my dad. I love this one synopsis I read. It was like, what, says he? Which is very, very silly. So, here's Brad Paisley's in this episode. So he is performing with Rayna. Deacon was supposed to be there, but is late. And Rayna was late, too, because Deacon was supposed to pick her up. So Gunnar takes some flowers to Scarlett, apologizes, and is like, I told Jack everything. She's like, listen, you can't just show up with flowers and make it all right. Like, I don't know what I want. But I'm going to go see my friend play. And so Juliette is just like yelling at Marshall and Glenn and Emily. And Glenn's like, Juliette, you need to take this time to grieve. And she's like, I am just happy that it's all over. But she's like, you know what? You're right. I should go back home, actually. So Gunnar walks in on Will in bed with Gwen. And Gunnar's like, what is going on, dude? I thought you were, and he's like, oh, you mean gonna be the biggest next country star? And like doesn't say that he is gay, you know what I mean? And he's like, oh, Gunnar's just bunking because he's on the outs with his girlfriend. And he's like, just so you know, I saw Scarlett with Avery. And so Brad Paisley admits to Juliette that he was worried that she wouldn't show. And then he tells Deacon, he's like, we're the ones who are allowed to be late. And Marshall kind of like makes a excuse for stuff. Brad and Rayna perform Bitter Memories. I don't remember anything about it. Deacon wants to talk to Rayna, and he's like, Maddie said that she found a report that said Teddy wasn't the father and was wondering whether he was. And Rayna confesses, and she's like, when I found out I was pregnant, Teddy and I agreed to get married and get a paternity test after the marriage. And then we decided to do what was best for Maddie, and Coleman had advised that I cut you loose. So, and then Rayna's like, okay, I have to call Teddy. And he's like, yeah, I'll meet you at home because we need to like talk to Maddie about this and see this through together. Scarlett goes to see Avery's gig. He invites her to sing with him on stage with a song that he'd written for her, and she does. I don't know how she knew the song. I guess maybe they'd written it together. Juliette is in front of her mother's casket and just is like talking to her and like accuses her of leaving her and walks away. Like, I hate that she died. I really wish that she didn't do this. I think there was more justice in that relationship that we'll never get to see. Which is, it's not good. I hate it. Like I said, I really, really hated that plot point. Unfortunately, before we get to there, Rayna and Teddy are like trying to explain to Maddie, and she just really blames to Rayna, and it's like, you lied to Deacon, you lied to me, and she's like, I want to live with you, Dad, or Teddy, I guess, because he's not really her dad, and Teddy's like, Rayna, let's just let her work through it, and, you know, you're not going to lose her. And then, unfortunately, Deacon has fallen off the wagon. He's drinking at the bar. He makes the bartender turn off the CMAs because he's like, I am not a country music fan tonight. And Teddy is talking over the embezzling issue with his lawyer, and he's like, hey, you know, Lamar handled the earlier audit by bribing the auditor, and he's like, listen, we might be able to cut a deal and we'll take down Lamar, but Teddy is pretty sure that Lamar tipped out the feds, and he probably wouldn't have done that unless he knew he was going to be safe, and he's like, all right, then I guess we'll talk to Peggy. So Rayna goes to seek help from Coleman, he's like, you know what, you need to let me find Deacon alone. And then the bartender wakes up Deacon, is like, hey, you can't stay here. Like, you need to go home. Juliette wins the CMA trophy. And Rayna is ringing Deacon, trying to see him at Juliette's funeral, but we don't see him at all. Or, like, when we do, he's, like, running up to Teddy, pushing him over, says that he stole his life. They're like dragging it out, fighting down. We knew this fight was coming because the tensions between them were so high. Like, just the toxic masculinity, it just had to come out. It had to come out via fist, unfortunately. And it's just brutal. Like, and also like so sad for Maddie, you know what I mean, to have these two men like not be adults about it. But obviously, like, emotions are very, very high. So Teddy's like, you know what? Maddie and Rayna deserved better than you, and Rayna deserves 1,000 times better, and you should stay away from my family. And he orders the men to release Deacon, but no one really does. And Rayna tries to console Juliette and is like, you know what? You're really good enough. And Juliette, is Deacon coming? But Deacon is outside of his house throwing up, so it doesn't seem likely. And then Gunnar asks Deacon for some advice with Scarlett, and Deacon's like, hey, can you just help me with my front door key? And Gunnar finds that the door is already unlocked, but he turns the key anyway because he really wants to know more about Scarlett. But Deacon, like, is not in a place to give advice right now because he's off the wagon having like an existential crisis, and he just shuts Gunnar out. And Gunnar calls Scarlett and is like, hey, I think you need to get people here. Like, your uncle is not okay right now. So Juliette hugs Avery, and he's like, hey, sorry, I'm gate crashing your funeral. And she's like, you know what? Actually, I'm really glad that you're here. And so Scarlett and Coleman come to Deacon's house, and Deacon is all mad that Coleman brought Scarlett there, and Deacon is screaming at him, and he's like, I'm not listening to you anymore, like, get out of my house. He tries to punch Coleman, but thankfully misses and falls to the floor, But he ends up still driving Coleman to a wall, just really bad. Like, you can see why Rayna left him for his drinking. Gunnar intervenes, thankfully, and Scarlett is so upset. Deacon apologizes, and Gunnar, like, goes to take care of her. And Coleman gets Deacon to a chair, but they don't want to talk. So Tandy finds Albert and her father discussing the baseball stadium site without her. And she is, like, done. She resigns because she's like, you're going to promote Albert over me. Like, I'm done with this. It's like, he's like, it feels like you can only maintain one good relationship with a daughter at a time. Like, only one of us. So Juliette gets handed the SD card that was found in the garbage disposal. She's asked if she has any idea what's on it, which I feel like they would have just looked at it, not asked Juliette, but I don't know if there's some legality in that. And Emily finds, like, the letter from her mother, and then Juliette realizes that her mom had been trying to protect her. That's so hard that, like, she had no idea what was going on. Like, that's just really beautifully rough. Like, oh my God. Like, I can't imagine, like, it not making sense. So Coleman is like, you know what? It's really bad. And he's like, listen, a lot of people are worried about you, Deacon, and Rayna knows what's happening, and Deacon's like, it's fine, I'll go back to AA meetings. Rayna's trying to talk to Maddie, who's still furious with her, and she's like, I just really wanted you to have a father who loved you as much as I do, and I love you more than anybody in the world, and I'm never going to leave you. And Deacon gets a call from Juliette, who they apologize to each other, and she's like, please come in memorial service for my mom at the Bluebird Cafe. He's like, yeah, I'm going to come, but he's unfortunately taking pills and drinking. So Teddy meets Peggy in a car park to just warn her about, like, the investigation. She's like, yeah, I already know. I met with the U.S. attorney. I was offered an immunity deal, but I didn't take it. And Teddy's like, well, why not? And Peggy's like, well, because I'm pregnant, which, like, ruh-roh, but then at least Teddy can father 2 children, finally, you know? And it's yeah, what a mess. What more drama, but this is the last episode, so they're setting us up for season 2, baby. So Rayna gets up when she sees Deacon at the Bluebird, but she follows him to his car, and Deacon's like, I want to be left alone, but Rayna's like, I'm not letting you drive drunk, and they're arguing, and nothing in this world is ever gonna break my heart again. Juliette's song, it's so good, it's so powerful, it breaks my heart. I freaking love it. It's so good. Like, I can't. It's amazing. One of my favorite songs of the season. So she's singing for her mother, and we see Scarlett walking into a park, and Gunnar is, like, greeting her, and this is intercut with, like, Deacon is drinking while Rayna is driving him. And Gunnar and Scarlett are sitting down on a swing, both smiling, cutting with, like, Rayna and Deacon arguing. You've got Will seated with a girl, but spotting some guy and, like, shaking his head, as kind of secretly signaling the guy, like, hey, don't join him. Like, don't let this girl know that I'm gay, because I'm definitely doing this big, like, cowboy persona so that I can kind of keep my record deal, which is just rough. And then we see Gunnar propose to Scarlett, and I don't think we get the answer. It's not the answer I hope for the ship, but also I'm like, they had too much to work through to go straight to a proposal. Like, I don't know what Gunnar was thinking, but that feels like the South to me. You know what I mean? So Rayna keeps looking at Deacon rather than an intersection where a car is crossing. And then unfortunately, Rayna, like, tries to swerve to avoid the other car, but they go off the road and end up in an embankment, and the car rolls over. It's honestly shocking. Like, this was honestly a really good car crash scene. And we see the car land in the ditch, and that is the end of season 1. If you want to find out what happens, I will be doing season 2 very shortly. Thank you so much if you made it. I think we're, like, over 2 hours now, which is a little wild, but I appreciate you for taking the time and the interest in Nashville. I would love to hear your thoughts. What were your favorite songs, your favorite characters, your favorite moments in the comments below. I am also working on my own musical. Have no superstar mother, none of that. So I would really very much appreciate if you could donate, help me out. And yeah, see you in more movie reviews and have a great rest of your day.